Hi, welcome to a Global GG event. My name is Gerardo Navarrete. I am a Google for Education certified trainer, leader for GG Campeche from Mexico, and also co-leader in Global GG. So welcome everybody. Please make sure that you drop your Twitter handle, your contact, and where you are in our chat. Today, we have Mr. David Lurch from US, who is presenting on GG Global. So welcome, David.
Thanks, Gerardo. Hi, guys. My name's David Lurch. I am a Google certified trainer and coach, and this is my first time presenting with GEG Global. So as I told Gerardo beforehand, be gentle.
Okay, thanks, David. David is middle school teacher in Marissa, Illinois, United States for 14 years. He is, how he say, certified educator, certified trainer, and certified coach too. He has a beautiful family and a marvelous award on excellence by teaching. By the way, welcome as leader in Global GG, David. I am pretty sure that he's going to rock today with his presentation. So, welcome all of you, and I left the scene to David for a great journey of learning with him. We'll be here, David, for everything you need. Please just give me a call, and we will be there.
Sounds good to me. And if you hear me scream, then we'll send more people than one.
Okay. I hope many people will join with us, so you will have a really, really great presentation.
Outstanding.
So I let you. The audience is all yours.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Just as Gerardo said, my name's David Lurch. And as we had talked a little bit beforehand, I'm a certified coach, a certified trainer through Google, level 1 and level 2 certified. Basically, if Google put it out there, I'm going to apply for it and try to get certified in it. And today we're going to talk about Jamboard. Jamboard is the hot thing right now in education. All you got to do is hop on Twitter, type in the hashtag Jamboard, and you're going to see some amazing things taking place with Jamboard. But my background is in working with middle school students. And my background comes from working with students that are in low income and rural impoverished areas. And as Gerardo said, I spent about 15 years working with students in the middle school from that background. And so a lot of times those kids will come to me and they'll be pretty fresh to all of those things. And so the focus of today, what we're going to do is we're going to build from the bottom up. We are going to focus on those basics. What are those little tips that you're going to need to know with Jamboard? And we'll go from there. And so I gave it the name Jamming with Jamboard because Jamboard and jamming just go so well together. And I have to say, I had to put this screen up. My daughter's a big Grumpy Cat fan. And when I typed in jam, there was a Bitmoji of Grumpy Cat. And so we got to talk about that. I had to include that. So that's my little dedication to my 8-year-old daughter. So just a little about me. And again, I always tell everybody when I do a training, this is probably not what you come to see, but just so you know that I'm not just some random person they pulled in off the street to do this. Like I said, I've been teaching for almost 15 years in middle school. I'm currently teaching in a very, very small school district in Southern Illinois. That is Marissa School District number 40. I am married to my wife. We've been married for almost 14 years. I have one daughter. She's in 2nd grade. And as I said, I have all the Google certification. In 2020, I was awarded with the Emerson Energy Excellence in Teaching Award. Say that 3 times fast. We're a big Disney family, and I was a basketball and football coach for 10 years. So anything that kind of pops up as a teacher in middle school, I've probably done it. So as I said, our big goals today, like I said, I build from the bottom up. So I like to start with building blocks and kind of work from there on some of those different basics. And after we get to know Jamboard and we learn about those basics, from there, we're going to build into some more advanced ideas, some more applications. And the reason that I always start with basics when we look at tools like this is because a lot of times we'll skip those basics. We'll move ahead. We'll go into something a little bit more elaborate, and we'll forget some things that are pretty common knowledge and could be helpful to you as a teacher, but you may end up passing those over because there's something that you kind of skipped in the process. One of the trainings that I've recently done was on Google Classroom, and it was in the setting up of Google Classroom, and it was in implementing your Google Classroom. And we were looking at the settings in Google Classroom, and I told the group, most boring thing is looking at the settings. But in looking at the settings, we were able to figure out ways that we could really clean up our classroom stream, and that was a real game changer for a lot of teachers. So got to start walking before we can run. And with that being said, let's get started. So here's my elevator pitch. You've heard the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch is where you get on the elevator with somebody, and as they're going to their place that they're going to get off the elevator, you get one chance to explain to somebody why you should use this. So here's my elevator pitch for Jamboard. It works with all Google apps. It's easy to share, and you can access it anywhere. This is not the only whiteboard that's digital that you can use. There's a lot of different things out there. But the reason I like Jamboard is that Google aspect to it. So let's look at some of the basics with Jamboard. And if you're going to follow along, if you're somebody that needs to have that in front of you, the website is jamboard.google.com. Now, again, why would you need to know that? Well, I'll show you. So if you Google Jamboard, you're going to get two main hits. The first hit is going to be for jamboard.google.com, which is the tool that we're going to be looking at today. But the second hit is going to be for the actual stand-up digital whiteboard Jamboard. And that's actually what Google sells that you can use. Digital Jamboard's amazing. It is an awesome tool. I've seen a lot of people use it, and it's a really effective piece of technology. But if you Google that, and you're looking for Jamboard and you click that tool, and you might go to see where Google is selling one of those, you're going to come back and say, hey, that Dave guy, he lied. This is not out on Google. And so just make sure you're looking for that jamboard.google.com. And so when you go to that, you're going to be prompted with a big blank page. Don't freak out. It did not break. What you want to do is click that big orange button in the bottom right-hand corner. Now, yours may look a little bit different. When I first started doing trainings on Jamboard, 99% of people had a big blank page. But now, as I've talked more about Jamboard, I think more people have used it. So you might see a few jams in there. So once you click that plus button, we're going to focus on 4 tools to start. And going left to right, on the left-hand side, you have your drawing tools. Above that, you have the ability to change your background and frame. And so we're going to talk about that here in a moment and just the amazing things you can do with that. Above that, you have frame options, which we'll get to as well. And then all the way to the right, that big blue share button that pops up every single time we look at Google Tools as a share option button. Now, when you click that share option button, here's one of the most basic ways that you can integrate Jamboard with your students or with other people that you collaborate and work with, is you can share these Jam files just as you would share any other typical Google app file. So if you're familiar with sharing docs, it's no different. If you're familiar with sharing slides, it's no different. I think sometimes people will see a new tool like that and think, I don't know how this integrates or adapts to what I'm using. And the basics are the same. And you can share it just like you would with any other Google tool. Another basic, I think people sometimes forget, is that if you get a jam shared with you or someone shares with you and you want to find it, there's a really quick way that you can do that. So from this screen, you're clicking the orange jam button. And once you've clicked that, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to sort by who owns it. So you're owning by anyone, you're owning by you, you're owning by somebody else. And I think what's kind of neat to do there is if you're ever finding yourself in a situation where you use Jamboard way too much, I know I use it a lot, and it ends up being the tool that I use 90% of the time with my students or with other teachers, whether I'm teaching something or coaching or training or doing something like that. It's a really easy way for sorting what you have and sharing it like that, because you can find what people have shared with you really quick, and you can find what is yours, what you own, quickly as well. So let's get into the drawing tools, and probably the most diverse part of using Jamboard. So on the left-hand side, going top to bottom, we have a handful of different tools. The first thing is your pen, and pen you can change to have different tips and different colors as well. Below that is your eraser. You have a cursor, an arrow below your eraser, which you can click on things. And then you have one of the more powerful tools, I think, which is your sticky note tools. Now, I'm a huge fan of using sticky notes. I think they're awesome. It's one of those things that makes it easy to differentiate and kind of draw in some connections and get students to be engaged in your lesson. I know it seems silly, but just the simple idea of using different colors of sticky notes is such a powerful tool. You can use yellow to represent a math sticky note or green to represent a language arts sticky note, but just allowing students the ability to diversify what they're doing with those sticky notes is a big deal. And again, I always say you got 6 colors to choose from, right? And the last color is blank or it's no color, but just having those options, I think, really allows you to add some engagement into what's a fairly simple tool. So the other thing I like with sticky notes is they are great for short and simple messages or comments. And we're going to look at what those look like a little bit later, some ways that tomorrow you can create a lesson, you can do some pre-engagement strategies with your students. But using those sticky notes, something that is important to keep in mind is that no matter what you type on them, if it's too long, your text will break into the second or third line. So I have a background as teaching middle school math. And so always when I think of teaching examples, I go to that math-minded thing. And in this case, I'm looking at order of operations. So with this sticky note, I wrote 1 times 5 plus 3 minus 2. Well, the issue with that is it's broken into that second line. And if you use a sticky note in this way, no matter what you do, that text is not going to break. It's still going to end up on the second line, but there's a workaround for that. And we'll get to that here in a moment. Now, below your sticky notes, you have your images. Images are a really powerful tool in Jamboard. And if you've added images in other Google tools, then you're probably familiar with that. But remember, you can add images in one of 4 ways. You can upload something from your computer, from the Google image search, your Google Drive, or you can pull directly from the photos on your computer as well. And you can also add multiple shapes. So below your pictures or your images, you can insert shapes into your Jamboard. And you have 8 shapes to choose from. Now, the first time this was added, I was showing this to a group of teachers, and they said, oh, great, I can add shapes. I can put sticky notes. I can put pictures. Big deal. And one of the things that Google has done is it's given you the ability to change up what you do with those shapes. So in this example here, I've added the image of a circle. And what I like is when you click on that circle, you now can change the background color and the fill color and the lining color as well. So in this case, I have a circle and I want to use it in some way with my students. So what I've decided to do is duplicate that circle, put them on top of one another, and make their background transparent. Now we have a Venn diagram that works perfectly with what you are doing with your students. And so I think just seeing those shapes working outside the box is a really easy way that you can change up what you're doing with your students and not kind of rack your brain to the point where you're struggling like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to add in so many different things into my Jamboard jam. You can keep it very simple in that regard. One of the last options we have is inserting text boxes. Now, text boxes, just like they sound, a good box with some text that you can insert into it. You can change the font size, the color, and the alignment. Unfortunately, if you are somebody who is more artistic, I am not. Look at these slides. They are not pretty. However, getting the ability to change the text or the font size or the color, you do have some options there. Now, unfortunately, you're not going to get to change up all of the different fonts that you have access to and all the different colors and all those different things, but you do have some choices that you can do to change things up. So with that being said, just some general drawing basics. So let's get into the frame options. If you remember at the start, we said 4 basics. We said our sharing basics, our frame options, our drawing tools, and then our background. And we're going to talk about all those separately. Frame's really easy. Not a lot you have to do there. At the top of your screen, you have 2 rectangles that are on top of one another. If you click those rectangles, you'll see a drop-down that looks like this. And from there, you have a few things you can do. By clicking the 3 dots, you can add to the frame options. By duplicating or deleting frames, and then by clicking the plus sign, you can add more frames. Just remember, though, you can duplicate up to 20 frames total in your jam. So you can stretch it out pretty long, but unfortunately, there is a ending time for that. Now, if you're somebody that is using this to create screencasts, which we'll look at here in a little bit, keep in mind that you do have a finite ending to that with 20 frames. However, I would argue that if you are going above 20 frames to teach something, then maybe you could pare something down a bit. So let's talk about some of the extras that go with Jamboard outside of those frame options and those drawing tools. Now, probably my favorite part of this is that without doing anything, Jamboard immediately creates a file in your drive. And if you use this with your students or you do this yourself and you start using Jamboard, you're going to get on here and you're going to look for Jamboard and you're going to be like, that guy is a liar. I cannot find Jamboard in my Google Drive. And then you're going to send me a mean tweet or a DM or an email. It's not under Jamboard. Look for my jams. The nice thing about having that file folder in your Google Drive is you have access to the same sharing options that you would have with other files in your Google Drive. So in this case, I can share with just about anybody that I have in my domain. I can insert directly into my Google Classroom stream as an activity with your students that's not for a grade. You can also insert directly into your classroom, your classwork tab in Google Classroom. So your students can view it. They can edit your Jamboard file, or you can make a copy for each student. So some of the later strategies that we have will allow you to create that and then make a copy for each student, and then your students can use that for homework. I'm a big fan of slides as well, but I will say having slides in Jamboard to be able to do my virtual or my remote teaching has really been a game changer for me. So I think it's important to also call attention to the fact that there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with pictures in Jamboard. And this is probably the best workaround if you're trying to create some type of digital graphic organizer or worksheet. So if there's something that you want to share with your students and it's an image and you want to use it with them, I found this to be probably the easiest way to do it. And it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. So the first thing you want to do is find that image that you want to use and save it and save image as to your computer. From there, you want to click that background option. And once you click that set background, you want to go to the bottom right-hand corner and select that add an image option. So you're going to get to pull that image directly into it. Now from there, click that blue button, browse your computer, and you can pull that image directly into your Jamboard file. So in this example, as I said, math science guy, but I did talk to my longtime partner teacher and I told her, hey, give me something that you're using with your students right now. She gave me this story organizer. And so we used the picture, save image as, and inserted it directly into the Jamboard jam that I have here. And so now I have that image saved and it's locked in the background. So not saying that anyone has ever had students that accidentally deleted, moved, clicked on something, changed the color to, not saying that's ever happened, but once that's locked in, it's really nice because it acts as that background and you and your students can manipulate it as you see fit. Now, my other suggestion, if you're going to insert an image as a background, is to make sure that you also include some directions in it before posting to Google Classroom. I'm a big modeling person. I always want to model what my students are supposed to do, and I want them to feel confident that they're seeing what the teacher is doing or what their teacher is doing. So before posting that to Google Classroom, I would make sure that you include some of your directions in there so everyone's going to get a copy of that with exactly what you want versus a big blank story organizer. Now, a year ago, we would have said, oh, screencasting, that's something I sometimes do for YouTube. Or maybe even 2 years ago, you would have said that. Now we all are pretty proficient at making screencasts. And I feel like Jamboard works really well with screencasting. So like I said before, Jamboard is an awesome way to teach something step by step. Like I said, math-minded guy. I was a basketball coach forever. I got to teach things step by step. And so when I'm going to teach something, I want to break it down into the simple steps so that my kids can remember what they're doing with that. So in this example, I'm taking 3 times 3 minus 2, and I'm going to teach this thing step by step. So what I'm going to do is my first frame is my question. I'm going to add another frame in the frame options, and I'm going to solve that next step, which is 9 minus 2. I'm going to add a third frame, and I'm going to go ahead and finish solving that. And I really like this as a step-by-step option because you can screencast your whole lesson this way and work it out step by step and just talk over it. I don't necessarily think you need to write it out as you do it. I think you can just finish your frames, record it, and talk over. Do like a really good voiceover here. And so this is just a GIF that I put together just to show that example of a way that I had set something up for my own students. So really simple. How am I solving this? 3 times 4 minus 5. So step 1 is the question. Step 2, multiply. Step 3, subtract, and then solve. So just simple, easy, and I think your students will get a lot out of that. Another great use for Jamboard is a pre or before learning activity. So we all know that best practices in education is that you're going to do something to pull in that prior knowledge, but we also know that depending on your teaching circumstance, it can be really hard to find a lot of different ways to pull up that pre-knowledge or pre-learning before you start something. And so here's a couple of really simple ways that you can do that. Now this I pulled from a social studies example. My daughter is a humongous ancient Egypt fan. We are really excited about that. We live near St. Louis, and my daughter is actually excited. There's a traveling Smithsonian museum exhibit that's going to be showing off Egyptian mummies. And so despite the pandemic, she's trying to convince me to take her to go see it. So I told her, if we go, you're wrapped in bubble wrap, and then we're going to have like sticks to keep people away from you. But so for her, I told her I'd put a picture of ancient Egypt in this. So if I'm teaching a class on ancient Egypt and I want my students to tell me what they know about pyramids, I'm just going to drop an image into a Jamboard jam, post what I want them to do, share it with my kids. And it doesn't matter how you share it. If you are teaching littles and your students are not currently using Google Classroom, as long as they can access this, this works totally fine. But they can collaborate on this, share what they know about this. They can do it individually. This could be shared in a Google Meet if you're virtual. This could be shared in Google Classroom to be done as a quick assessment for you just to kind of gauge that prior knowledge. And it could just be a simple tool that you use in class. So if you have the students with you, instead of pulling out that chart paper and pulling out real sticky notes and doing that, share that with them and give them a chance to kind of show off what they know. You can do a gallery walk where all the students walk around and see what they have written. Just something really simple and digital, and it kind of lets the students use some creativity to share that. Another thing, like we had talked about before, in inserting images as background, just find that activity you want to use. So classic KWL chart here. I've put that as my background. My students are going to use that, and I'm going to share it on Google Classroom. And now this is saved to their Google Drive. And so if my students want to refer back to this, because we're using this as an occurring or a living document as we're learning about, in this case, the Apollo moon missions, they can fill out what they know, and then maybe on day 2, they can start doing what I want to know, and then on day 3, what they've learned from that, and they never have to worry about losing it, of course. Not saying students have ever lost anything before in your class or my class, but really easy to keep track of that and to keep all their thoughts and their discussion and their work. So Jamboard also works really well as a substitute for a worksheet or a piece of paper. So bear with me, because this seems like I'm just making this sentence up, but this is a real thing. So one of the challenges that we faced with COVID was that a lot of our teachers were trying to become experts at using technology without much background information or background knowledge to do that. And so when we were sitting down and talking about ways that we could adapt this for our school district, first thing I just threw at them is I said, look, if that worksheet that you're using has 10 questions and you want those 10 questions to be done by your students, just type those on Jamboard. Take a minute, type them out, and use it. And I also told the teachers, hey, share those questions with your students, send it home, however you want to get it to them, and let your students kind of use Jamboard to answer. So in this case, I'm using a second grade or a third grade multiplication worksheet. There were a couple questions on there, and I had one of the third grade teachers that she just typed them on there, and she's going to share that in place of the worksheet she's using. Now, in my opinion, this is the strength of using digital tools and Jamboard in general. I've shared the questions with the students, and you can post that in Google Classroom. You can share that as a link with them. You can force a copy with them, however you need to share with your students. Give them some creativity in answering, though. So in this case, this third grade student, her teacher told them, answer however you want. And the student decided to do all three. So they did a sticky note to answer, they typed out 25, and then they drew 16 using their mouse. And I like that because it allows the students to take some ownership of their learning. And that's little, getting to choose how you answer. But I think anywhere where we can build that in really kind of creates that classroom community for you and your students. Again, I like this idea of using that kind of as a piece of paper to do your work in a variety of classes. So these are 3 6th grade vocabulary words: consider, minute, and accord. And again, a great way that you can just put them out there, share them with your kids, tell them what you want, find your definitions, and go from there. And a really easy way that you can differentiate this or add in an accommodation if you need to have those accommodations for your students is to just add in the answers themselves and scramble them up, or add in extra answers and let them click and drag the correct answer with it. And again, it just takes you a minute, but because you can make copies of this or post this as an assignment in Classroom, those extra minutes really do save time in the end. And this is actually an exact assignment that our junior high special ed teacher was using as a form of accommodation for students who had IEPs. So just making them fill in the blank or giving them an answer bank, really easy way to adapt and to follow what was being taught in class, just adding that accommodation. Okay, so this is one of the more far out things that I like with Jamboard, and that's using it as Cami. Now, I'm going to tell you, I love Cami. We use Cami at my school. Our entire junior, senior high school uses it. We are big Cami supporters. And if you don't know what Cami is a Google extension. Effectively, what it does is it takes a PDF or a Google Doc or slide or whatever you're using, makes it into a editable PDF, and then students can write on them, interact with them, integrates with Google Classroom. It's a great tool, but it does cost. And not every school district is going to be given the opportunity to purchase Cami, despite the fact that it might be an essential tool to work with. This is not a perfect solution, but in my opinion, this is a fairly successful workaround if you can't use Cami, to kind of use Jamboard and force it to become an adaptable version of Cami. And it requires just a few steps. And again, this is free to use. So the first thing you want to do is snip a picture of an assignment you'd like to make digital. I will tell you, if you are a tech savvy person or you're working with people who are tech savvy people, then just tell them to snip that picture. They should be able to figure that out, or just with a little hand holding, they can figure that out. If you're somebody who, it doesn't feel necessarily comfortable in your journey of learning to try those different things, or you're helping to support teachers who maybe when it comes to something like this, they're like, you know what, I'm not super comfortable. I'm just telling you, the best tool that they can use is their phone. You can snap a picture with your phone or whatever you use and upload from there. Now, if you're going to screenshot or snip something on a Chromebook, it is the Control key and the Windows key. So that's Control, and then that's directly above the number 6. That'll give you the full screenshot. And just by adding in that Shift button, that's how you get a chance to snip an image directly from whatever it is that you were using or that you want to take and then insert into your Jamboard. On the PC, there's an actual tool itself that you click, and you can snip whatever image that you would like to take. But once you've figured out what you want to take and you know how to do it, it's time to take that picture. And if you're struggling to take a full picture, just go to Print View. whatever it is that you're trying to get, go to print view and you can snip that image directly from it. So this is an example of a 5th grade math assignment that a math teacher, she was wanting to use with her students on Jamboard. And unfortunately, she couldn't quite get that image to work. So she went to the print view and well, you'll see. Now, once you've snipped that image, it's as simple as it was before. We're just inserting that image directly into Jamboard. And just remember, if you decided to use your cell phone to take that picture, I would make sure that you email it to yourself. And from there, we click that image button, go to upload, and you pull it directly from your computer, from your device. And you now have that image directly inserted as a manipulative into your Jamboard. And remember, like we talked earlier, you can insert it as a background as well if you're concerned about students clicking on it and moving it around or deleting it. Now, once you've clicked those corners and you've resized it onto your screen, just let your students work it out and answer. And you can share it in Google Classroom directly as is, and they can answer however they wish. Like I said before, you can answer with sticky notes, you write it. I've even had a few students that actually solved it and found a picture of whatever the answer was to insert into it. And like I said, it gives some students some ownership into what they're doing. So moving past some of those basics and so simple ways that you can integrate Jamboard into your classroom, let's look at some general Jamboard templates. So we're going to look at a couple of templates that have worked really well and I've used with my students before. And the first one is a template where we took a background and we inserted it. And I actually pulled this from Matt Miller's website, Ditch That Textbook, as an example of something that you can use. And that's just good old-fashioned 2 truths and a fib or 2 truths and a lie. And as we know, 2 truths and a fib or 2 truths and a lie, it's a great way to get the kids chatting and to get them interacting with one another, just as a way to kind of open up. I think something that we're going to have to really majorly consider at some point is, the trauma that our students have kind of dealt with in the circumstances that they're in right now. And I found that with so many students going home, going remote, coming back to school, or, kind of just being unsettled constantly, getting them to open up is a challenge. And so if you do this digitally, it seems to be a really effective way for students to kind of open up in a safe environment. And you can do this digitally, and you can do this with students in person and remote as well. And I do have a bit.ly link for 2 truths and a fib. And it's just an example of something that I did with a group of teachers and students where they tried this together. And they all kind of we shared this out. We collaborated together on this. And we all kind of went through the different frames, and you had to write down which one you thought was a lie and which one you thought were the truths. The next example is probably my favorite, and that's the graffiti wall. Now, just a word of warning here. I'm going to share the bit.ly link as well in the slideshow. And if you want to check this out, you can. But the question that I gave to my trainers that I was with, the teachers that I was with, I asked them to create a graffiti wall of 2020. So they had to input an image of 2020 into it. But what I like about graffiti wall is it's a way that you can collaborate and make something visual. Now, I would suggest if you're going to use the graffiti wall to do this as a collaborative effort and just let everybody put 1 or 2 pictures. Students get a chance to add something of their choosing to the wall, and those images can represent whatever you want. We just had a group of junior high teachers finish reading S.E. Hinton's The Outsiders, and they put together a big graffiti wall for each class of what they thought the theme was. And so they were able to check that out. Be warned, though, the link that I'm going to share, I tasked my teachers with add an image that sums up 2020 for you. So your imagination can figure out what types of things I got shared on there. I got a lot of requests. Could you please take down the filter on the internet, Dave? And I was like, I'm not going to do that right now. If you guys want to do that at home, that's up to you. The last template that I have here is three things. And three things is literally what it says. Give me three things. And this could be a way to summarize a lesson. This could be a way to share something about you. But it's going to be three things for a topic that you have shared. And I think that this is a great way to start a lesson, because you can ask your students to share three things that they know about the topic. You can make three predictions. You could do it at the end of a lesson, and that would be three things that they do not know now that they finished learning it, or three things they've learned. There's so many different ways that you could take this. And it's, again, just a really simple template that I was able to get from Matt Miller that I've used. And the link that I'll share here, that is actually one that I used with a group of teachers. And this group of teachers, they got pretty creative with this. And again, it seems to work best when each student gets their own copy. The graffiti wall works really well if every student is working collaboratively on it. And the three things, I think that works best when everybody has their own to work off of. It's also something that's really easy to make a summative activity or some type of quick assessment. We have spent a lot of time talking about ways that we can take worksheets and make them digital, which is very important. And I'm not going to sit and, say worksheets are something that you don't need to do as a teacher, because frankly, sometimes that's something you do need to do. But I do think that having the ability to just give an open-ended assessment sometimes it really goes a long way towards trying to create something or put something together for your students. One of my last slides here, I have four links to some different two truths and a fib, graffiti wall, and three things templates. And then in the last space here, I have a template list from Holly Clark. It's just a Wakelet list just full of Jamboard files. So yeah, that's kind of the basics of Jamboard that I'm hoping will get you started and jamming with Jamboard to go from there. I think it's really helpful to start slow and kind of build from there. And I think it's a good idea to take your time with that and really build up so that you get a chance to do a lot of different things with this. So, so I have I have my Twitter handle here. So absolutely, you can reach out to me using my Twitter account, or you can shoot me an email. I'm always happy to answer whatever you need or respond to whatever you need. But I think we have some time for questions here. So if you want to use the chat to kind of pop some of those up, I would be happy to answer some of those.
We will be really happy to answer questions. You have so much to say for us. I see in the chat people really excited with all your recommendations. I think that we are finding a new way to use Jamboard. Personally, I am a rookie, a really rookie using Jamboard, and I am learning a lot from you. So Resma is with us in backstage. If you help me, Resma, with some question. Hey, excellent. Thank you, Resma. Can we pop in the questions for David?
Yes, I don't see any specific question, David, because everybody is just excited and amazed with what you shared with them and made it just look very simple. There's just one question from someone saying that they could not access the links that you shared. So is it possible for you to put them in the chat again for us, please?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think I received a few emails from people that said they clicked, and for some reason it wasn't allowing them. So what I'll do is I'll hop on and I'll make sure that I allow them access so they can check that out.
Awesome. That will be great. And there is a question, is there a version history available in Jamboard?
Yeah, so currently I don't believe there is. Now you have the ability to undo and you can redo any mistakes that you make. But currently, I don't believe that they have that built in yet. But I will say that it seems like Jamboard is something that they are, updating constantly. The first time that I had used this with my students, we didn't have the ability to even put text boxes in, and then within like a month they had text boxes in. So it looks like Miss Rhodes has a pretty good hack there. Is that a version history, Miss Rhodes? I'm guessing it might be.
Yeah, I believe it worked for some time earlier.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I don't know if it works now. Probably you are a pro, so you might want to test it out. And or
Yeah,
Miss Rhodes,
absolutely.
let us know.
Yeah, no, there's not.
But everyone is saying just thank you for everything that you have shared. That is all I see, like awesome activities. There is a question which says that how can we engage older kids in this? So you talked about younger kids not being able to use paper pencil. So do you have any ideas about probably middle schoolers or high schoolers, how they can be engaged?
Sure. I think that you probably need to be a little bit more structured with your younger students. So if you're working with littles, keep it more structured so that they're not going too far outside of what your expectation is with that. But I feel that when it comes to your older students, as long as you give them the parameters and framework to work with, I think allowing them some creative umbrage with what they're doing, I think goes a long way. And I think a lot of students will get a lot out of that if they have the ability to kind of do their own thing with it. So working with middle school, that's what I worked with primarily, in junior high kids and then some early high school. That tended to be what we did. I just made sure that what I shared out with them, it was open-ended, gave them the parameters they could work with, and then they kind of just took it from there. And so I think giving them that ability, I think they catch on really quickly with that.
And people also need tips from your presentation skills. You were awesome. You kept the audience engaged, and everyone said along with Jamboard, they're learning how to present. So thank you so
good.
much.
Well, I want to thank Folgers Coffee and the gallon of coffee I drank today, because this was quite a day at work. That's what we'll say.
I had a question, David, for you about Jamboard. Is there a way to embed any other website into it or put up a link and you can click directly from the Jamboard?
Sure. So what we have done most of the time with that has been using text boxes when you insert something into Jamboard from there. But actually, right now, in terms of actually making it a full like live hyperlink, I've not been able to do that where you could click it and it would actually work. But what we've done for a lot of students, we just will post those links in there. So again, like slides, I know that's such an awesome tool with slides where you can attach a link to a picture or, within your slideshow. Jamboard doesn't have that yet, but hopefully it's something that we will get at one point.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be a great addition to Jamboard, because it's an excellent tool that I think it's growing, because most of us are using it, and maybe it should have many updates to give us better solutions to our needed. Okay.
And I will say, if you are contemplating using a drawing tablet with this, because a lot of teachers, depending on the circumstances you have at school or your own personal circumstances, if you're looking for a way that you can draw on it, touchscreen seems to be the best way to go. There are Wacom drawing tablets, which a lot of people really like the Wacom drawing tablet. But I will say our experience with that as a Google school that was using Chromebooks primarily, we had a hard time getting those to sync up really well. So I think that would be something that would be just worth considering, because that's always the question I have is, if you're like me and when you use the mouse to draw, it looks like very bad doctor handwriting. It's something that you can definitely kind of consider is looking into that touch screen or other ways that you can do it. Another really easy hack is the Jamboard app on your phone. As crazy as that sounds, if you download the Jamboard app on your phone, you can draw to your heart's content on there, and it integrates with all of your different, Google tools from there. So that's been a really nice workaround as well.
Oh, that is good to know, because I was about to ask this question, because I take sessions with GEG India, and a lot of people still don't have access to the laptops and all these resources. So the first question always comes up with these sessions is, can we access it through the phone? So I think I learned that right here. That's a good tip to know.
Yeah, and the app was we spent, because that was a problem with, we have some college credit classes at our school. We're really lucky to have those, and our teachers really have to have the ability to digitally draw, and so we tried everything, and I was just like, let's just download the app and try it, and I was kicking myself. I could not believe it was that easy. Just download the app and use your phone. So.
Mm-hmm. So there is a question, David, which says the activity of truth and lie could be about a theme, like for instance, for an environment or anything, right?
Yeah, I love that idea. Yeah, and I believe that is an awesome idea. I really like that, because I think that would give your students the ability to show what they know, and make it as unique as they can. So that's a great idea.
Excellent. I love it. I am not teaching in lower grades. I am teaching in higher education. But just let me tell you that I am a rookie, but I am using Jamboard with teachers, and I am using Jamboard with people in university, because they find funny to make sticky notes and insert some image. I thought that maybe it wouldn't be good for people upper than 20 years, but let me tell you that it has been really, really interesting to see how they are engaged using this tool. So I think that it's a tool that we can use in all levels of education. It's inclusive, including trainings. As Google certified trainer, we can use this tool for some kind of ideas to help us to bring brainstorms or activities such that we are really happy to having you here, David. It was an amazing sessions. All the comments are fill the chat with us, and we are really, really happy to be with us now on Global. And I know that it was your first presentation, as you said, but you don't seem that. I think that you did a great presentation, and many of us have many things to learn from you. I'm really grateful for all your teachings today, and because you are sharing all your knowledge and all your expertise in your school. We are really, really grateful. So, I don't know, it's good morning, good afternoon, or good evening for you when you are watching this. Remember, you can see all the sessions recorded in our site. So I thanks to you, David, and all those are watching this for joining Global GG. Please don't forget to leave us your feedback and come back to enjoy another amazing session like this that we have today. Thank you, David. Do you want to say anything to?
Sure. I appreciate the opportunity today, and I just want to call attention to the new normal that is teaching from home, because I'm in my basement, and right next to me this whole time, you didn't see this whole time, I had my daughter's Lilo and Stitch doll the whole time, and I had no idea that was there. So I appreciate the opportunity. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully it's something that people can get something from and use. I know Stephanie has a really good session that's going to be coming up soon, and I'm sure that's going to be awesome as well, because she's going to talk more about Jamboard too. So definitely something to check out.
Excellent. So let's take any opportunities of PD through Global GEG site. So nice to see you, and have a very, very, very good moment now. Bye.